What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got two more Mercenaries to show you. You see, over the past couple of days, I've been showing you Mercenaries, this brand new faction, not just in the Transformers TCG universe, but in the Transformers universe in general. They just so happen to be debuting in the Transformers TCG. And I'm really hoping you can all see how gigantic it is that a huge brand-wide change is being introduced in the trading card game that adds legitimacy to the game like you would not believe. But there's two we haven't looked at yet. I will, of course, link the others in the description. But we've yet to look at Detritus. We've yet to look at Mudflap. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to change that. And we've grouped them together partly because they're the last two, and partly because they let you play extra cards. So if we start off with Mudflap, who I think is the least exciting of the two. Mudflap is an 8-cost character, and the stats are exactly what we'd expect from an 8-cost character. In bot mode, it's literally 4 attack, 12 health, 2 defense. That is the average, at least going by Wave 1 standards. And then in alt mode, like so many characters, you gain 1, lose 1, except you gain 1 attack and lose 1 defense. Now, what's really interesting here is that we saw this same thing on lockdown, because generally speaking, characters tend to have slightly higher defense in alt mode and slightly lower attack in alt mode. That does not seem to be the case with the Mercenaries. That has very much gotten on my radar. But what does it actually do? Well, in alt mode, or at least when you flip to alt mode, plan 1. You may put 1 card from your hand on top of your deck. Now, what I absolutely adore about Mudflap is that it is when you flip to this mode, not when you attack. Generally speaking, plan comes in as a when you attack kind of deal. Well, the problem is that, yeah, fine, that's great when you're attacking, but you're not always going to be attacking. So let me give you an example of a card which is going to become relevant in a moment. Field Communicator. Field Communicator is an upgrade that you attach, and what it basically does is let you play the top card of your deck. But you don't always want to play the top card of your deck blind. You might end up attaching an upgrade that you're not ready to attach yet. Or it might go even worse. The top card of your deck, okay, it doesn't see a huge amount of play, but it might be something like a Photon Bomb that does 2 damage to each character. It might be something like an EMP Blast, which taps every character. Or EMP Wave, as it's called. Well, they're not great. So playing the top card of your deck blindly could be a pain. Well, this allows you to put a card from your hand on top of your deck so that you can play it. And in just a more pedestrian point, it means you got a hand you want to play, you can put it down and guarantee you play it with Field Communicator. But then we have some cards that really depend on having a particular card on top of the deck. So let's say General Optimus Prime, the new one that's coming out in Wave 4. When you flip General Optimus Prime to alt mode, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it is an action card, you play it. If it is an upgrade, you don't. By having plan 1 like this on an ability, you can just know that you're getting an action and know that you're going to be able to play it, whereas if it wasn't on an ability, whereas it was on an attack, that wouldn't work. And that's what's so cool about this, ladies and gentlemen. That's what is so utterly brilliant about this. I'm a big fan. I love that you can plan before an attack, put down a piece through Tyranny with its double orange icon, that's fine. But I also love that you can do it midway through a turn, so that if you've got one of these skills, whether it's on a character, upgrade, whatever, that depends on the top card of your deck, you can fix the top card of your deck. That makes me happy. And then in bot mode, it's got a bounty ability, as all the Mercenaries do. It's kind of their thing. You know, they're Mercenaries at the end of the day. What else are they going to do other than go and collect bounties? Which means that when you do enough damage to KO an enemy, you get a new skill. Reveal the top card of your deck, you may play it. It's Field Communicator. Now, it's not entirely Field Communicator, because Field Communicator scraps the top card of your deck. This, if you don't play it, it goes back on your top of your deck. Although it does mean you know what's coming next. Lets you play an extra card. There's not just action, it's not just upgrade. Whatever the top card of your deck is, you may play it. And just like the point I made when I revealed Field Communicator, and I was lucky enough to be able to do so, this is not a card that is in your hand. And what that means is you are getting a hand advantage. You get to play a card without depleting your hand by 1. That's pretty big, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty gosh darn cool. So we like Mudflap. Mudflap's kind of cool. Love being able to play extra cards. Now, remember, it does depend on you taking a KO to be able to play the extra card on top of your deck. And if you're in bot mode, you do lose 1 attack. So once again, you've got to try and manage yourself a little bit here. But if we go and have a look at Detritus, we see an 11-star character, which is pretty expensive. But we see stats which are pretty good. Health of 14 is high, attack of 5 or 6 is high or very high, defense of 1 or 2 is fine or pretty bad. I mean, certainly defense of 1 on an 11-star is not ideal. So the stats are okay. In terms of abilities, it's the ult mode I'm loving here. When you flip to this mode, you may play a black icon card. Now, it needs to be played from your hand. You've got to have the correct card in your hand. But as soon as you flip to this mode, you can play a black icon card. So the question really becomes, how many black icon cards are you actually playing? Because if you're playing enough of them, that's pretty gosh darn good. I mean, to spoil a card that we haven't got to look at yet, that we will look at soon, Contract Contingency. It is a double black icon card, but let's say it ends up in your hand, so you're not flipping it, although as a side note, using plan 1 to put it down before you attack with Mudflap, pretty cool. Choose one of your characters, it gets +2 attack until end of turn, and when the chosen character does 4 or more attack damage to an enemy without KOing it, you use the bounty ability. So here, you end up with an attack of 8, and you can have the bounty ability if you don't KO. Now again, there's a little bit of play skill that needs to come in here, because if you can just do 4 damage, you guarantee the bounty skill. We'll get to what it is in a moment. The only way you lose it here is if you actually KO, but if you think you're going to KO, then you need to flick back into bot mode. Although you will need something like rapid conversion here, so that you can actually get that extra flip, because you need to flip twice to pull that off. This is really cool. Now it is when you flip to ult mode, so you've got to get into bot mode and then back into ult mode. But if you're playing a piercing deck and you're playing a bunch of black icon cards, this is amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. And one of the best things is, it doesn't limit you. It is any card in your hand, just so long as it has a black icon. So one of the ones that I was lucky enough to reveal this wave was Plunder. Now don't get me wrong, Plunder is far better as a card, just to get the triple icon when you're flipping, than it is to actually use it. But if it ends up in your hand, you're probably going to need to use it, and your opponent chooses 3 cards in their hand and scraps them, you might end up scrapping an important card from their hand right before they attack. That could be fun. Playing an extra card is good. Now, as for bot mode, it is another bounty skill, and they tend to be in bot mode incidentally. And once again, you lose an attack in bot mode. No, I don't think it's a coincidence that the bounty skills tend to be in bot mode, and they tend to be the rare characters whose attack is higher in ult mode. Don't think that's a coincidence. And what this does, very simply, you repair 3 damage. But you're starting off with a pretty beastly 14 health. And repairing 3 damage is better than a repair bay. So this is nice. Repairing 3 damage is not something we see very often at all. And when you're starting with 14 health, and then you're repairing 3 damage, yes. I adore this, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely adore this. But once again, it is a bounty skill. So you only get it when you take a KO, which is slightly upsetting, except I just showed you Contract Contingency, which gives you +2 attack until end of turn, and then lets you use your bounty ability without taking a KO. Oh yeah, this is pretty good. And there are a couple of other ways we're going to be getting, and it's going to be its own video tomorrow or the next day, that we can actually use to get cheeky extra bounty skills. And if you can use this bounty skill over and over again, oh yes, this is beautiful. Incidentally, again, we can't get into it in too much detail, but we get in a card Coop. A secret action is revealed when a character is KO'd, and then you use a bounty ability on one of your cards. So basically, if your opponent KOs one of your characters, you get to use your bounty skill. And if you can be using stuff like Contract Contingency and Coop, while taking the odd KO, and then adding in stuff like Repair Bay, you can have one of the best repairing decks we've ever seen. Repairing free damage is gigantic. Repairing free damage only when you KO something is annoying, but having skills that let you cheat extra bounty abilities, that makes a huge difference. And as a side note here, I would not be surprised if we get extra bounty skills in the future, i.e. more cards that let you use bounty skills, and that's going to be kind of redonkulous. And I suppose I should quickly mention before we finish, these characters have other stuff in common. They are both range characters, which open you up to the cheeky damage cards, generally armed hovercraft and marksmanship, and they are both trucks, which means that you can use cargo trailer to get a little bit of extra attack going, and this is best when you get free cargo trailer on at once. And if you've got a truck which is very hard to KO because it keeps healing, Detritus, that might be kind of fun. Or Team Up Tactics, or indeed another card I was lucky enough to be able to reveal, Battering Ram. Do some damage, flip a character, could be fun. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, 2 new Mercenaries. I like Mudflap. I think it goes in with other characters as a nice little helper. I love Detritus. I think it's a centre of its own deck revolving around healing. But I'd like to know what you think, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about a whole bunch of games, like Transformers, but anything else that takes my fancy. And do please make sure you're taking a look at patreon.com/PTCGradio. There are weekly bonus podcasts, and you can support the channel, etc. It's a fun place to be. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.